welcome to Rough Cut Film Review. Before I start, don't forget to check out my other reviews. I'm up to 138 and counting, and there's plenty more where that came from. So please do tell your friends, your colleagues, your mortal enemies, whoever. And remember, at all times, I watch Surf Nazis Must Die to the very bitter end for you guys. So, you know, you owe me, kind of, sort of. I mean, you don't. So, this is a review of Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, so a big thank you to Cineworld Cinemas for being such a cool big corporation. Shut up, they are. This is released in the UK tomorrow actually, so that's Thursday, but thanks to Cineworld I've managed to see this legally in advance, so the review is going out on time, which is just incredible stuff. You really are lucky to have me, not that you've ever had me. I suppose some of you might. If you've ever had me, please do get in touch. I might like to hear from you. I might not, but that's the risk you run. Anyway, right, let's regroup now. So the first reboot of the Planet of the Apes film starred James Franco and John Lithgow, and it was really rather good. Those two actors are gone now, and in their stead are Jason Clarke and Gary Oldman, who both of which I like very much. And we have Andy Serkis back, reprising his role as Caesar the Ape and basically doing all the motion capture stuff that just looks so incredible. First thing to say is, despite taking an early design decision not to display the ape's genitals, and in fairness, I think it would have been rather distracting had they shown ape nipples and genitals and all that sort of thing. The apes look absolutely superb. They really do. The CGI is amazing, but beyond that, they're totally believable in the way they act and interact with each other and interact with the humans. It all looks really, really good. And if you look, you know, when you've just got some apes not really doing anything in the background, they are sort of squatting in the way a primate would squat. I mean, it is all really thought out, really well researched, and the language is really well researched as well. I think it's just excellent. I think that before we get any further, that could have been a massive stumbling block, is if the apes all looked a bit silly, that would have been the end of it then. You know, we just wouldn't have gone along with it at all, and that's all I'd be talking about, but I'm not. I'm saying really, really well done. Serkis does, again, a remarkable job. He is a remarkable talent, actually, and they've clearly thrown a huge amount of money at the CGI stuff, but having said that, there's a lot of talent there, and it all looks absolutely brilliant, so really well done. I think it's probably time I rewatched the first reboot, because my memory of it is somewhat hazy now, but spoiler alert, it ends with the intelligent apes escaping, led by Caesar, who is the most intelligent, escaping the city of San Francisco, I think it was, to find a home for themselves, which is in the sort of rather idyllic, jungly forest that seems to be just outside San Francisco as far as anybody can tell. There's lots of sort of biblical stuff in here. So the apes are looking for their homeland. They're led by this sort of semi-religious and quite overtly so figure of Caesar. There's nods to how he's revered by his fellow apes, and obviously it's a biblical tale. But basically they start to form a primitive, and literally they are primates, society, but they're growing and developing and learning very fast. So they've been away from the humans. That's the important thing. In the meantime, mankind has had a really bad time. It's been suffering from a catastrophic virus called the simian flu, which was man-made, I think, in the first film, actually. But it escapes and does its best to wipe out humanity. As far as we can tell, there's the survivors around San Francisco, and there's sort of a commune, small society there. But they're trying to contact other groups, and they believe there are other groups, humanity clinging to life in the old world. So the people around San Francisco come into contact with Caesar and his apes early in the film, and the film is based on the tension that is created. In a lot of ways, this film reminds me a lot of a zombie film, and its sensibilities are very, very similar. And actually, I mean that as a compliment. It's not simply the post-apocalyptic setting, but it's, despite the fact that on the face of it, it's a film about apes, it's really not. The same as zombie films aren't films about zombies. They're films about people and about human nature. That's all zombie films are. They're little parables about humans and their interactions with each other. And that's exactly the same here with the apes. It reminds me most of Land of the Dead, but actually, to be completely fair to Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, it's a much better film than Land of the Dead. It's a much more interesting film, and it's a lot more intelligent. The film spends most of its time focusing on our main characters, both human and ape, and the interactions between them. And at the beginning, we start off here with the humans, here with the apes. As we go through, it's the individual characters' pasts and their presents and their characteristics and their interactions with, you know, man and ape, etc., and within their own groups as well. Broadly, you could split the characters into, I suppose, the hawks and the doves, those that want war and those that want peace. And with the seemingly inevitable wheels of war turning, the characters all basically pick sides as to whether they are a hawk or a dove, but it ponders the big questions in the lead up to the war and the decisions that can be made and the choices and the situations that the characters face, regardless of their personal outlooks. And that's really important, actually, that people might not necessarily want war, but at the same time they have to live up to their responsibilities, and that's really interesting. Within the film, some of the individual choices I felt were missteps, but the broad strokes for me are really good, and all of the important things they get right here despite making a couple of false steps. Walking out of the cinema, actually, I overheard a lady saying she thought it was the worst film she'd ever seen, and I literally can't understand how she can have such a terrible opinion on it. And I get criticised a lot for never actually complimenting films. It's a sci-fi film, but it's a film about people, and the acting is really good. The direction is really good. The biggest thing that bothered me about the film actually was just quite how many spoilers were in the trailer. There's one scene in particular I was waiting for because I'd seen the trailer and it had ruined it for me. But when it happened, and I'm not going to spoil it now, there was an audible gasp in the cinema because it is such an effective scene, and it was such a shame it was wasted by showing the thing in the trailer. It's just that I find it absolutely infuriating that they'd ruined that for me. I saw it in 3D, which I was a bit disappointed to be in a 3D screening, but actually it was pretty good compared to most 3D films. You know, it was inoffensive. It's a blockbuster, but it's really well thought out. At its heart, it's a simple story about people, as I've said. The same film could be made in the build-up to the First World War if you just swap out the ape. It could have been so easy for it to fall down with all the CGI apes on screen. It could have looked really silly. It doesn't. You get an emotional connection to the computer-generated apes. Absolutely you do. It doesn't go for the saccharine, sugary sentimentality of other films. It's so nice to see. I mean, I saw the Transformers film last week and the review's up, and I was just crushingly depressed coming out of the cinema of just how lazy it is. How do we keep getting diminishing returns from these franchises? And then I go and see this and think, yeah, that's why I like films. I really enjoyed it. This is really good. Kind regards, Christopher Thomas.